The easing of restrictions.
This is today's COVID frontline. Residents around Altona are being urged to get tested if they feel sick after coronavirus was found in the wastewater.
Particularly after some 8 weeks of the same sites returning no positive samples from the sewerage.
There are no new cases at Portland and Benalla, where traces of the virus were found in sewage this week. Statewide, Victoria is down to just one active case.
This is one of the remaining immunosuppressed members of our community who have had the virus for some time.
Victoria's hard border with South Australia will be replaced by a permit system from midnight tonight, despite restrictions in that state easing.
Of course, as the South Australians look to ease their system, we will be following in broad alignment with that.
There'll be an easing of restrictions in Victoria from this week, with more people allowed in hospitality venues, cinemas and gyms. The Premier's also expected to increase the number of people allowed to gather inside homes, just in time for Christmas.
It's not my job to be Santa Claus right now, but the Premier will have more to say about this in the very near future.
The opposition is calling for an announcement on masks.
When it comes to masks, the rules should be relaxed. Not axed, but relaxed.
The government says masks will be around for as long as they're useful. Margaret Paul, ABC News, Melbourne.
Australians are being urged to continue respecting the Defence Force despite this week's confronting revelations of alleged war crimes committed in Afghanistan. The Prime Minister has declared the findings of the long-awaited Brereton inquiry were disturbing and distressing, but warns the actions of a small group of soldiers shouldn't harm the welfare of others.
They have earned the respect which we rightly provide to them and should. And our support for veterans is incredibly important at this time.
Scott Morrison has also expressed full confidence in General Angus Campbell as the Defence Chief oversees a cultural shake-up of the Special Forces. A man has died after being caught in a rip in Wollongong. A group of 6, including 3 children, were washed into the ocean at Woonona Rock Pool about an hour ago. Paramedics performed CPR on the man, but he died at the scene. Bystanders used jet skis to bring the children back to shore. They've since been taken to hospital, but are believed to be okay. A woman has been charged after allegedly stabbing her son in Sydney's East. The 22-year-old man suffered several wounds to his back, shoulder and arm during the attack in Bellevue Hill overnight. He's in a stable condition in hospital after undergoing surgery. His 55-year-old mother has been refused bail and will face court in the morning. Police say a knife was found at the scene. Well, less than a week since the New South Wales Treasurer suggested getting rid of stamp duty for home buyers, there are concerns about how much it would shake up the housing market. Now, the idea is to let people opt out of paying stamp duty in favour of an annual property tax. It would be a more reliable source of income for the state government, but some in the real estate sector say it could end up distorting the market.
Even while physically distant, these prospective purchasers are edging closer to property ownership.
We had a great turnout, a lot of first home buyers and investors out in the marketplace.
But it's a marketplace with a substantial barrier to entry: stamp duty. The state government this week released a blueprint to replace it with an annual property tax from sometime next year. But at least at this open home, in an upfront versus yearly tax debate, the choice is clear.
I think paying stamp duty would make it paying less in total.
Yearly will be for the rest of your life, so this is better. One-off, it's done.
I would prefer the one-off tax as well, because that way I can plan my expenses very well.
A property tax would charge owner-occupiers $500 per year, plus 0.3% of their unimproved land value every year they own the property. For example, if this Collyton house sells for $699,000, stamp duty would be almost $27,000. With a current land value of $356,000, a property tax would cost about $1,600 a year. This home in Plumpton is off to auction shortly. If it fetches $1 million, the stamp duty would be more than $40,000. The land is worth almost $400,000, so the owners would have to pay about $1,700 in property tax this year.
When I heard in the news that they're trying to scrape the stamp duty, I was pretty happy.
This was, to some extent, a thought bubble that was dropped on us last Tuesday. And now a lot of people have assumed that it's in right now.
While the Real Estate Institute wants the decades-old stamp duty dumped, it's worried the proposal has people delaying their investments in an already weakened market.
As a consequence of all of the announcements, most certainly the market is in a state of disruption.
The Treasurer wants talk of a property tax to be a barbecue stopper this summer, but the proposal is still being fleshed out. Given the consultation phase runs till March, final detail won't be known till the first half of next year.
Liked or loathed, the door's now wide open for the opt-in tax. Tim Swanston, ABC News, Sydney.
It took only a few seconds and was almost an aside, but Donald Trump's again told Americans he won this month's election. He hasn't spoken directly about the result for a fortnight, but slipped in another defiant victory claim just as a crucial swing state was officially confirmed as Joe Biden's on the president-elect's 78th birthday. From Washington, Greg Jennett reports.
Thank you very much.
A live mic, a captive audience and a script as well.
Now it's at a level that nobody can even believe.
A self-imposed public silence was shattered to promise cheaper prescription medicines, along with a healthy dose of Get Square.
We had the media against us. We had big tech against us. We had a lot of dishonesty against us.
In his view, big drug companies were out to get him. Perhaps, he suggests, delaying COVID vaccines just to spite him. Then, this final, short, sharp shot of denial.
Big Pharma ran millions of dollars of negative advertisements against me during the campaign, which I won, by the way, but, we'll find that out.
And on it goes, into the heart of Georgia.
We're going to keep fighting until every illegal vote is thrown out.
A state officially confirmed by recount as Joe Biden's. And back again to Washington, where Republicans from the Michigan state legislature have been called to the White House. Suspicions abound that Donald Trump was looking for political blockades, asking friendly Republicans to delay certifying Joe Biden's win in Michigan. They've rebuffed him.
The Constitution does not permit a state legislature to do what Donald Trump wants the Michigan state legislature to do.
Through almost 50 years in public life, Joe Biden's career is a testament to patience. So he's settling in for what looks like a long Trump withdrawal before he reaches the pinnacle in the White House. It's a most unusual transition. It almost obscures another milestone, passed with little fanfare. From here on, America's 46th president will also be its oldest ever.
In my Oval Office, mi casa, you casa.
My house is your house was the invitation to congressional Democratic colleagues Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer at a meeting anything but celebratory. They're planning to get a COVID relief package passed.
They know how much that relief is needed, especially as we look toward the Thanksgiving holiday.
And Thanksgiving's likely to have one less mouth to feed at the Trump table. Don Jr.'s gone positive to the virus. Like father, like son, and like 11.9 million Americans. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Washington.
Britain is preparing to fast-track access to a COVID vaccine, with the government aiming to have the entire adult population vaccinated within 5 months. Thousands of injection sites are already being planned across the UK, with authorities looking to move quickly as soon as the first vaccine is approved.
A flu jab today, but it could be a COVID vaccine as soon as next month if the British government has its way. It's formally asked the UK regulator if the Pfizer vaccine could be approved for use.
We will be ready to start the vaccination next month with the bulk of the rollout in the new year. We're heading in the right direction, but there is still a long way to go. Coronavirus remains a grave danger right now.
Pfizer claims its vaccine has been 95% effective in trials, but that hasn't been peer-reviewed. And doctors say a vaccine rollout faces massive challenges.
There'll be huge logistics involved with that in terms of texting patients, writing to them, phoning them, which takes a lot of personnel. Obviously, the personnel actually to do the vaccinations.
In Scotland, the toughest tier of restrictions has kicked in for 2.3 million people in central and western parts of the country.
It's heartbreaking. Normally from October to December we're full on, and this year it's stop, start, stop, start. So you just have to adapt.
I think we do have to do it. I think we possibly should have done it a bit sooner.
Wales is 11 days out of its strict lockdown and infection rates have dropped. The Welsh are now busy shopping, dining and doing what's forbidden in other parts of the UK.
They're panicking really, they want to get all their Christmas done now because they don't know if we go into a further lockdown, so they're definitely out and around and wanting to buy everything now.
Gyms are busy back up and running, but Welsh authorities have warned no one should act like the virus has gone. Just as restrictions were lifting, businesses in Northern Ireland say they were blindsided, ordered into another lockdown in a week's time.
I don't think we could have put any more safeguards in than what we have, and I don't think that has been seen. That's what it kind of feels like.
The Northern Ireland executive says scientific modelling showed that hospitals could have become overwhelmed within weeks if it hadn't acted. Jenny Lavelle, ABC News.
United Nations aid agencies are calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Ethiopia. Fighting between the army and regional forces in Tigray has caused more than 30,000 refugees to flee to Sudan. UN agencies currently have no access to the conflict zone and fear that hundreds, possibly thousands, of civilians have been killed. The National Dance Rights Festival is one of the biggest public celebrations of traditional Indigenous dancing, but it's also become a tool to preserve ancient customs. Like so many other events this year, it's faced cancellation and was forced to go virtual. But that's given communities a special opportunity to compete on country. Indigenous Affairs correspondent Isabella Higgins reports.
In a peaceful Sydney park, an ancient ritual is performed. These women prepare to tell the stories of their ancestors.
It does help you be connected to the land that you're from and different places, and it connects you to our ancestors.
Peta Strawn has dedicated her life to dance. She's performed for Bangarra and other national groups, but now she's sharing her skills, starting the Janaway Dance Clan to bring together Aboriginal women in Western Sydney.
It gives them their identity as an Indigenous First Nations person, so it strengthens them.
Today, only a few are rehearsing, but usually there's women from all over Australia in their group.
We sort of bring our own experiences and stories and our dreamings, and it's allowed to come out through the choreography and the story that we tell through our dances.
They're preparing to compete against other Indigenous dance groups this weekend in the finals of the Dance Rights Festival.
The annual event usually happens here at the Sydney Opera House with this forecourt filled with sand and spectators. But this year, it's a digital dance-off, and some dance groups say they're happy for the opportunity to compete on country.
From Mornington Island in the Gulf of Carpentaria to Bamaga in Cape York, all the way to the Kimberley in WA, Indigenous dancing styles from all over the nation are on show.
I think a lot with Indigenous culture, we kind of brush it with one stroke, but if anything, Dance Rights does highlight the diversity of cultures, whether it is a ceremonial practice or it is more of the contemporary reclamation of that.
The winners will be announced later tonight, but the ultimate prize is protecting these centuries-old customs. Isabella Higgins, ABC News, Sydney.
Families who adopt are encouraged to be open and honest with their children about their heritage. Many couples treat their child's birth parents as close family. Those special relationships can now be reflected on a new type of birth certificate that gives adopted children more of a say when it comes to documenting their identity.
It's been 2 years since Felicity and Adam Moreau brought Chris into their bubble.
It's awesome. Best thing we ever did.
Since Chris was adopted, they've kept close ties with his birth family, meeting up with them at least several times a year.
We treat them like they're our extended family. We're in each other's lives forever, basically, and they treat us the same.
When he's older, Chris could get an integrated birth certificate if he wants to.
It will allow an adopted person to reveal more of their life story, more of their birth family connections.
It looks pretty familiar. It'll have all the details about the child's adopted family, plus their birth parents side by side. It's part of the law here in New South Wales for adopted children to know their birth parents and to be able to see them. For kids like Chris, an integrated birth certificate can paint the full picture of their heritage.
Knowing their origins, as well as having a stable, permanent new family and a stable life, is going to ensure that they have good outcomes as they grow into adults.
That's how I got wrecked, isn't it?
When Chris has questions, his parents are an open book.
He's got a really big extended family.
He's got a lot of people that love him and do have his best interests at heart.
His birth certificate will reflect that too. Bindi Bryce, ABC News, Sydney.
Thousands of Queensland Year 12 students have begun their annual Schoolie celebrations, albeit in a very different way from recent years. With the traditional planned events on the Gold Coast cancelled due to COVID, many have instead flocked to campsites on the Sunshine Coast.
It was all about beach cricket, stocking the esky, and figuring out how to put up a tent at Tiwa Beach this morning.
Everyone's always sensible at schoolies, obviously. As long as we don't drink, drive and don't be idiots on the beach, should be cash.
A lineup of four-wheel drives, a clear indication that campsites north of Noosa are fully booked.
Oh, we just make our own fun, you know, just go with it and be like, yeah, it is what it is.
Police, rangers and even the ice delivery man are keeping tabs on the teens.
All the schoolies I've met so far have been fantastic.
Come Monday, Noosa too is expected to be a hive of activity, but not so the Gold Coast.
I'd say we'll still get a few. We know that some are choosing to go to other areas. We have a layer of support that we'll be able to manage whatever we get.
Just have fun down here for a week. Doesn't matter if there's no big parties.
For decades, this has been the hub of where school leavers come to let their hair down, with Surfers Paradise usually attracting around 20,000 schoolies. But with official events cancelled 3 months ago, numbers this year could be just a few thousand. Accommodation managers are encouraging families to book a holiday now.
Come on down, we need you. We really need people to come to Surfers Paradise. It's a great place.
COVID-19 may have put a dampener on their final year of school, but the class of 2020 is determined to see it out with a smile.
I'm keen to embrace any positive energy coming my way and soak it all up.
Gemma Sapwell, ABC News, Gold Coast.